by murdering 168 little girls. He began the war with slaughtering little school children, and it was intentional in the eyes of Iranians.
You think so?
Remember,
it was not a mistake.
I think, yeah. No, I don't think so, because I know a thing or two about war. Before any major war, before any major battle, the first targets are very carefully vetted, because they are important for you to get momentum. So those primary targets are discussed and discussed again and discussed. After a few weeks, an officer may be seeking a new target, and he may be in a rush, and he may make a mistake. And primary targets are all well chosen. That school was there for years. That school was on all apps, Iranian and American. That school was on all maps. But those children, many of them, were the children of military officers. And they wanted to teach the Iranian military officers a lesson. And if anyone thinks that this is not really possible for American soldiers, I would advise them to go and look at a few pictures of Gaza. It is more than possible.
You see no difference between the Americans and the Israelis in terms of choosing the targets?
No, I think the United States is just as brutal and barbaric, the regime. We all remember, how did the Iraq war start? Shock and awe. Shock people. Put them at awe. We all recall what American soldiers did in Fallujah. It was an illegitimate war. Iran hated Saddam Hussein. I hate Saddam Hussein. I'm glad he's dead. He was a monster. He was like Netanyahu. Netanyahu's worse, but he was a monster. But Iran was opposed to the U.S. war against Iraq. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah spoke out against it, and many Iraqis were angry with him. But he spoke in principle. But all these Arab dictatorships, and sadly NATO members, they assisted the war, even though they were his allies. They had funded him before. But the principle of U.S. war, so the U.S. war was illegitimate, the occupation of Iraq. That aside, U.S. soldiers in Iraq committed countless crimes against humanity, against the Iraqi people. And is Israel worse? Yes, of course. Israel is worse than the Americans, because they are Zionists, and Zionists openly support genocide. If you poll ordinary Americans, they would definitely be opposed to genocide. But Israelis are supportive of genocide. So, but in nature, is the U.S. armed forces like fundamentally different from the Israeli regime? No. It is an army of the empire.
Professor,
and it carries out the policies of
Professor, what's the way forward? What's the way forward? Every war, every conflict, every tragedy ends with some sort of negotiation. So what's the way forward? I understand the empire is a problem.
Throughout history, I think it's always been the same. If you want to be able to live with dignity and honor, you must be willing to make sacrifices. Resistance is key. And of course, Iran is deeply influenced by a culture of resistance because of the story of the grandson of the Prophet and his sister and Karbala, resistance against the despot and supporting the oppressed against the oppressor. That is very key to Iranian culture and society, and the axis of resistance. That resistance is necessary for you to be able to reach a point where the oppressor is forced to back down. If the oppressor backs down, you can normalize. You don't have to like the oppressor, but you would have a different relationship. Again, I would advise people to read Going to Tehran by Flint and Hillary Leverett. If the United States had pursued the policy that these two very decent people, the husband Christian, Catholic, the wife Jewish, two very brave intellectuals with outstanding moral principles, and who served in the White House and who were highly educated, if they had, instead of pursuing the policies that they're pursuing today, if they had pursued what the policies that they were advocating, we would not be where we are today. It doesn't have to be this way. And we don't want it to be this way. We would rather live in peace. We do not like war.
So where you are in Tehran.
That's why we did not, just one point, we did not start any of these wars.
Agreed.
We did not start the 1980 war of Saddam Hussein. We did not start last year's war, and we did not start this year's war. Some analysts were saying that Iran has imperial ambitions. Iran has, when after Saddam was soundly defeated by the Americans, after the Americans invaded Iraq, Iran could have taken a piece of Iraq. Iran could have taken a piece of Iraq for itself, or said that while Iraq was down and weak, and said that, okay, we want these changes. Iran did not do that. Do you know that Iran, because of the U.S. sanctions, Iran has been providing free gas to Iraq? Iran, which is under maximum pressure sanctions, for years. It doesn't get it. Iraq owes Iran many billions of dollars. The Americans won't let them pay, but the Iranian government, the leader, say, give them gas. People need electricity. Iraq is very hot in the summer.
So we've been hearing that something like $27 billion the Trump administration has perhaps agreed to pay back, which is Iran's money, which is stuck in Korea, which is Iran's money, which is stuck because of the secondary sanctions in Japan, in Korea, in Qatar, in Iraq, and in China, even in China. This is $27 billion ready cash. But you have something like $100 billion of funds, oil revenues stuck across the world. And then your trade is restricted. You can't sell your oil at the normal prices. You are not able to do normal trade with Pakistan, with India, with Turkey. So if there is a deal that actually takes care of these things, and you hand over the enriched uranium, and you already said that you don't want to make a bomb. So is there any harm in going for the deal, or you don't trust that the deal is there on the table?
No, there are a couple of things. Doing a deal in itself, there's no problem with that. But Iran is not going to give up its sovereign right to have a nuclear program or to enrich. Anything that Iran is, if from today they say Iran is not allowed to do this, then Iran is no longer a sovereign independent country. You can do a deal to let's say, for confidence building. But to say that Iran permanently cannot do this, that's out of the question. And also, Iran is not going to forsake the Palestinian people. Have no doubt about that. The Iranian support for the Palestinian people is a principled cause. We make sacrifices for the Palestinian people because we believe in the Palestinian cause. Just like we supported and continue to support Cuba, we support Venezuela. When no one was helping Bosnia, when Bosnia was about to be wiped off the face of the earth, we went and supported Bosnia.
True.
To what benefit for Iran? None whatsoever. But Iran helps prevent the extermination of the Bosnian people.
I remember mid-90s, 1994 and 95. So Iran played.
The brother of one of my friends was actually martyred there. A young man, his name was Nawab. But the point is that for us, the Palestinian cause is the ultimate humanitarian cause of the world that we live in today. It is the standard by which we assess who is human and who is evil.
After coming back from Islamabad, the next day, the Iran offered United States 5 years zero enrichment, which Trump rejected. Apparently, J.D. Vance there's no clear offer. At the moment, there are no clear offers on any area being made by Iran. Everything that you see in the Western media is misleading. But in any case, if whatever Iran offers to do, whatever it may offer to do in future, would have to be provisional. Whatever it is, Iran will not give up sovereignty. Again, this goes back to the revolution. The Islamic Revolution was a revolution about dignity, about sovereignty, about honor and independence, and about principle. And the Palestinian cause, going back to that, was a key
issue. Remember, when apartheid South Africa was in power, the Iranians, after the revolution, not only broke off ties with apartheid South Africa, but it began to fund and support the resistance movement in Southern Africa. And one of the first countries that Nelson Mandela traveled to after being freed was the Islamic Republic of Iran. And he went and he came to my university. I was a student back then. He received an honorary doctorate. And he went to see the leader and said he called him my leader, out of respect for what Iran had done. So Iran has, unlike the United States, which is an utterly unprincipled foreign policy, Iran has a principled foreign policy.
Just again, let me.
I'm not saying that. Oh, so are you saying that Iran is utopian and that Iran never makes? No, but comparatively speaking, when we look at on the map, who has sacrificed for the Palestinian people, it has been Iran. Who has not? It is the governments across the world. Does that reflect upon people across the world? No, because people across the world, their hearts today are with Palestine, whether in Latin America, whether in Africa, or whether in Europe or Asia, we see that people's eyes have been opened to Zionism and the reality of Zionism, and their hearts are with the Palestinian people.
So one last set of questions that we are just 4 days away from the deadline of the ceasefire. Iran has opened up the Strait of Hormuz, as was initially envisaged in the 15-day ceasefire. The Lebanon ceasefire has taken place for the 10 days. At this point, do you not see a second round taking place? Pakistan's army chief was there for the 2 days. He came on Wednesday. He was probably still in Tehran. I don't know whether he has left Tehran or not. Is he still? He left. He left today? He left last night?
I think he left last night.
Yeah, so he left last night.
So there were Iranian jets in the air in Tehran last night, fighter jets, and they were to escort him.
Well, we thought that Pakistanis escorted you to Islamabad to Tehran. We heard that. Is this true? When you were coming back?
They escorted to the border, and so out of respect, Iranian fighter jets escorted him back.
Okay, so that was a matter of respect, because we were made to believe that.
Well, no, it wasn't just a matter of respect. Remember, when we were on our way to Islamabad, I think that was when it happened. The Washington Post published an opinion piece saying that the United States should murder the negotiators.
Exactly, I remember that.
We were in Islamabad and planning to return. We all thought that there was a high probability that our plane would be shot down. And to the credit of all the men and women in the delegation, not a single one of them stayed back, because they could have said, well, we want to stay here for a few days and look around, and now that we're here, and then we'll take the land route back to Iran. As you know, that would have been more than acceptable to anyone and understandable, especially, let's say, the younger journalists and so on who were not key members of the delegation. But everyone took the plane, and during the flight, we were waiting for a missile to hit. It wasn't inevitable, but you would think about that. So we are dealing with a ruthless and barbaric enemy whose own media advocates crimes against humanity. This is the world that we live in today.
Agreed. So we're 4 days away from the ceasefire deadline. Iran has opened up the Strait of Hormuz. United States has managed to end the war for the 10 days war in Lebanon, but you don't have any information on a second round in Islamabad. The army chief has left.
I don't think. As far as I know, and this morning that I speak with you, I have not spoken with anyone about the situation. I've only checked the news for a bit before speaking with you online. As far as I know, up to yesterday, a decision has not been made about a second round, but it could happen. It's plausible. Again, when I say I'm skeptical of the United States. Does that mean that I believe that progress cannot be made? No. If the United States comes to the recognition that its interests that sacrificing itself for the Israeli regime after a certain point is dangerous for its own stability and its own future, and it decides to make a more reasonable, take a more reasonable position, a lot of progress can be made. If the United States prioritizes its own interest over the Israeli regime, huge progress can be made. But the Israeli regime would never want to see that happen. So we have to see how things play out. And the reason why Iran is putting economic pressure is to make the Americans come to a point where they say, look, our interests are more important than the interests of a genocidal Zionist regime.
Professor, last question. So what Donald Trump saying in the last 24 hours, that if I have to sign a peace accord, I can actually go to Pakistan to sign a peace accord with Iran. That actually is a huge political capital investment. Because by just saying this thing that I'm so desperate to sign a peace accord with Iran, he damages himself politically in the Beltway politics. You understand there are powerful lobbies that would never like the President of the United States to go and sign a peace accord with Iran and going to Pakistan. That is unacceptable. So you don't think that he's serious when he says this thing? You don't think he's still serious? It's a huge commitment saying, oh, yes, if I have to sign a peace accord, I'll go and sign a peace accord in Islamabad.
Any peace accord would have to take into consideration the 10-point Iranian plan. And that is basically that Iran's allies across the region, in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and Iraq, they have to feel secure and safe. Iran's sovereignty has to be preserved, and there has to be reparations. Now, the reparations, these family dictatorships in the Persian Gulf that are constantly being milked by the United States, they can pay. But someone launched this war against us, and it was not Pakistan. So any agreement will have to fulfill requirements. And let me give you a small example. Iran and North Korea, of course, are infinitely different. And although the West demonizes everyone, and I don't mean to demonize North Korea, but I think that Iran is and the axis of resistance and the resistance against empire, those who've been protesting across the world and boycotting across the world, they're all shining stars of humanity. Whether it's a young 17-year-old or 18-year-old Korean woman who's standing in front of the Israeli embassy, or if it's a courageous resistance fighter of Hezbollah fighting in the south, whoever, or someone from Hamas or Islamic Jihad, or Iranians and so on, or protesters in Madrid. They're all heroes. But at the end of the day, what I think is, I forgot what I was going to say, but I'm growing old. Sorry. But I don't know. I have no idea what I was saying when I reached this point. I get a bit emotional about these people. When the genocide in Gaza started, I remember there was a picture of a woman in Seoul, in South Korea, and now I remember what I was saying. I'll get back to it. And every day she protested alone. On her own in front of the Israeli embassy. I've never met this woman. I have no idea who she is. But it is these people who then cause two more people to join, then 4 more people to join, and then 50 more people to join. These are all heroes. These are all heroes, wherever they are in this world, whatever their race or religion or sect, whatever. They're all heroes of humanity, and they are our hope. But going back to North Korea. After Trump visited North Korea, after he had a talk with the North Koreans, the Iranian officials met the North Korean foreign minister. And they said, what was Trump like? And they said, actually, when he spoke, there were no problems. There were pleasantries and so on. But when he left the room, it was back to normal. The people around Trump were hostile, were antagonistic, they're inflexible, they're demanding. and there was no progress. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Trump says. It matters what Trump does. And for us, we just don't want to see bombs dropping on Gaza or Beirut.
Or in Tehran.
Or in Tehran. And we can take care of ourselves. But we don't want to hear the news every day, which is literally what's happening. Every day, Israeli snipers having fun shooting kids in the head in Gaza. That for us is unacceptable. It will never be acceptable to us.